Welcome to the solution video for the string replacement challenge. Let's go right to Visual Studio. We're going to create a new project here, and we're going to create a console app, which is a .NET Core console app. And we'll call this the string replacement solution or challenge. And string replacement challenge app. And then we'll hit create. And this will create a console application for us that we can get started with. We'll start off by removing this test line here. We can add our console.readline at the end, just so it does stop. Now, in my version, I haven't taken off the feature that stops it from going away, even though you don't have a console readline. So we can actually, it stops there anyways, but just in case yours is off, I'm going to leave that console readline there. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to, first of all, read from that primary.txt file. So let's bring in our using statement, using system.io. That will allow us to load in our text file. Now, I'm going to give my standard disclaimer here. We are doing a sample application, so I'm writing everything inside of static void main or maybe a couple of methods. But normally, I would be putting this stuff into a class library for easier reuse and making things a lot more broken apart for purposes of replacement or upgrade. But in this case, we're just practicing string replacement, and so we're not worrying too much about how it's laid out in our code. Okay, disclaimer over. All right, so we're gonna say, let's just load the entire, no, I'm gonna load a list of string. That you can write it back just like it is. So a list of string, which by the way, list is not part of our using statements, so therefore we need to add that using statement for system.collection.generic, which I did with control dot. And then hit enter. So that's a suggestion that comes up. So list of string, we're going to call this lines. Let's call it primary lines, because we're going to have another load that's going to do the bonus lines. So the primary lines are from the primary text file, bonus from the bonus. So equals file dot read all lines, and we'll read all lines from the path c:/temp / primary.txt, and that's going to load those lines into my primary lines, but I do need to say read all lines returns a string array, which the problem there cannot implicitly convert from string array to list. Gotcha. So .toList, like so, and control dot there to add the using system.link. That's what it was. It's a little tricky sometimes when you have a console app that, or anything .NET Core, because they bring in just using system, and so you have to know what using statements you need, where with .NET Framework, we're kind of used to having the other way around, where we had all our using statements, and we then removed the ones we didn't need after we'd done all our code. So it can sometimes throw you for a loop, but as long as you know what exists or know what namespace, you can get them back. So now we have all of our lines. Let's now do a console dot write, please give me the text to replace. And that will be a case sensitive replacement. So to replace equals console.readline. And now we're going to have a console.read write that is, please give me the replacement text. And string replacement text equals console.readLine. So now we have both sets of text. We have what to replace and what to replace it with. And we have our list of lines. Now what we can do is do a for each. So for each line in lines, primary lines, nice catch there. So I can do a line.replace. We have old value, new value. So to replace, that's the old value. Replacement text, that's the new value. And that's going to return a new string in which all the occurrences of a specified string in the current instance are replaced with another specified string. So there we go. Now we could do a comparison type if we wanted to. So if we wanted to do a string comparison dot, we could do ignore case. We're going to leave it alone for right now, which is case sensitive. We'll verify that, but we're going to leave it alone because capital THE will probably want to replace it only with something else that starts with a capital letter versus lowercase. So now that we do all the replacements, we do need to save that back to our text file. So write all lines, and we need to pass in our path, which again, if this was not a demo application, I would be putting that into a variable, or even better yet, pulling it from somewhere else like a app config file, or even from what the user selected. But in this case, I'm just pasting in again, and lines, primary lines. I keep forgetting C# keeps fixing it for me, or Visual Studio does. So we've written all lines, and now we can just say console write line, the text file has been updated. And we're done with the primary challenge as long as it works. So let's look at this primary.txt. And this is a very tiny portion of a story that I wrote. No, this is not actual literature. This is just, I needed some sample text, and I couldn't find something that was that I could use without any licensing. I didn't want to violate anybody's licensing, so I just made my own. And so it's a very simple little story. You can read if you want, and maybe you can even fill it in, create more of a story around it. But the key here is there's a few words we could pull out. So we could say there's road more than once. We could replace road with street. Let's do that. So let's run this. And once it launches, it's going to pop up here and say, please give me the text to replace. We want to replace road with street. Hit enter. The text file has been updated. And now if we go back to our location here and look at primary.txt, it still says roads. We didn't quite get it the way we want it to. Let's find out why. So we have this line.replace, but notice it doesn't actually change the line. It just creates a new string. So we need to say line equals line.replace. The problem there is that cannot assign to line because it's a for each. And that's a problem. So we need to convert this over to a for loop, which I don't believe. Oh, hey, look at that. So this is a really cool little thing here. The control dot on for each says, do you want to convert that to a for loop? Well, yes, I do. And now it's a for loop. Now, So that's the primary challenge. Now, a bonus challenge gets a little bit more interesting. Let's look at the bonus.txt. It's the same story, but now you can put your own names in place. So we have first person, second person, and third person. But the challenge doesn't say to pull these three out and replace them, because that would be easy. We could just do that. It'd basically be the same thing we did for the primary challenge, just 3 times with 3 different replacements. Instead, we have to find what the variables are in this file, and then we need to replace every instance of them. So the first thing we need to do is find a unique list of the variables. So first person, second person, and third person. Not first person, second person, third person, first person, third person. There's a lot of different repetitions on the different areas. So let's do that. So let's do this. We're going to put this in, we're going to cut this out, and we're going to call it a private static void primary challenge, and paste it in there. And then you can call it here primary challenge like so, but I will comment it out because now we're going to create another method, private, if I can spell, static void bonus challenge, and we'll call that right here. So now you can call in here, and then when you're playing with this code, you can comment out the bonus challenge and run just the primary challenge and vice versa, or run both. It's up to you. So the bonus challenge is going to be similar to the primary challenge in the fact that we're going to load in a file. Now let's do the same pattern here. So we'll load in the file, and it's going to be bonus.txt. And now what we need to do is we need to find all the places where we have those parameters and what the parameter names are. Now, as I'm looking through this, I think I'm going to try and do this. I'm going to do just a string instead of list a string, have one big string, and I'm going to say bonus text. Instead of read all lines, I'm going to say read all text. So let me grab just all the text. We're going to do it a little bit different this time just to have something different to look at. This one did it line by line up here, whereas this one down here is going to do everything all in one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a regular expression and do a match on it to see if we can find just the items wrapped in curly braces and then pull out those variable names. So I'm going to start with, let's just say var results equals regex, control dot to add the using statement, regex dot matches, so multiple matches. You're going to look for every occurrence of this regular expression inside of bonus text. So we're going to search bonus text for this regular expression. Start with our @ symbol, which again, what @ does is allows us to have these escape characters like up here without having to double escape them. Because we're saying this is a string literal, this is literally a backslash, not an escape character, which just happens to be backslash. So with this in place, we can say curly braces, and then square brackets. Then we have our caret, which I don't use caret very often. It's over the 6th key on my keyboard. So caret, and then curly braces, close square bracket, plus curly braces, and we're done. So what that's doing is saying that we're going to look for the literal open curly brace and the literal close curly brace. Okay, so that's the, let's write it down here. So we're looking for something like this. So it's going to find this curly brace, and the end of it is going to be this curly brace. That's these two literals right here. But then we have these square brackets, which is saying, okay, this right here, that I've highlighted, that's all one statement. So the square bracket says not open, close curly braces. So look for something that doesn't have curly braces inside of it. So we're looking for one set. If you had a second set, that wouldn't be good. Don't ignore that one, essentially. But anything else that's plus means one or more somethings inside those curly braces. So it would not match on this statement. Just open and close curly brace. Wouldn't match that. But it would match on that. Now, it wouldn't be very descriptive for our user, because our user would have no clue what 0 meant, which is why we're using first name. So one or more characters inside the curly brace. That's the first name that's going to match to that. So find everything where that's a match. Now what that does is it pulls it out and it's going to return it in this matches. Okay, it's going to match collection. But I'm going to do a link statement with this. So I'm going to say dot cast to type match. And then select, and we're going to give it x arrow function x dot value. So the value of that match would be this right here. So the value of that match, we're going to do a substring of it. We're going to grab just a portion of it. We're going to grab from the character in position 1, which is the second character, and then x dot value dot length minus 2, which essentially says cut off the very first character and the very last character. Now, this value dot length minus 2, that's getting the overall length and subtracting 2 from it. There's a new thing in C# that I don't believe it's out yet, but essentially we could say it would be dot dot 1, and it would take 1 from the end instead of 1 from the beginning. So it makes it a little easier to make this statement. But this works for now. So we have a select statement, and then finally we're going to say dot to hash set. We don't typically use hash set that often, but what hash set does is going to give us what looks like a list. But the difference is a hash set cannot contain duplicate entries. And so it's only going to have an entry once. So in our case, we have first person, second person, third person, and we have duplicates of each of those inside of our text file. This will return just first person, second person, third person. Now, it's not going to guarantee the order. The order is not guaranteed the hash set, but that doesn't really matter. So with this now, we can see that we'll have a list of just first name, second name, and third name in the result. Now we can loop over that list by doing a for each result in results. And we can do equals bonus text dot replace. The old value is going to be item dot key, and the new value is going to be item dot value. But it's not quite that simple because key is going to be first name. We actually going to replace the curly braces as well. So we have to do our, let's just add string together. It's ugly, but this way it actually is going to work the way you want it to. And it's actually no performance difference compared to string interpolation. So I have curly brace plus item.key plus curly brace. That's going to append those three strings together, and now we'll have the item to replace with the new value. Now I said we could make this a little easier, and we can because I'm doing a for each here and then a for each again, and it's essentially the same for each. It's just up here we create a list or a dictionary basically, and then we loop through that same dictionary. So instead of doing that, what we could do is we could do our bonus text replacement right here instead and say replace result with console.readline. And then we don't need this at all. So that's one of those on-the-fly refactorings you can do. Whether you want to do that or not or have two loops, I would encourage you to have one loop if at all possible. In theory, that's done. And so now we can say file.write all text. And that text is bonus text. And that should be all we need to do. Oops. We have to pass in the location for bonus text, which is right here. And now we can say the text file has been updated. So now let's run the bonus challenge. The value of first person, Tim, Mary, and Jill. The text file has been updated. So now the bonus text file says Tim and Mary were walking down the road when Jill met them at the end of his driveway. Oops. That's what you get for writing really poor literature. So, but the replacement did work. Okay. So with that being said, that's now the completion of the bonus challenge. The bonus challenge to replace those items without pre-specifying what they are. So you have the primary and the bonus challenge in place. Okay? I hope you got it. I hope that that was understandable. We used regular expressions in a different way. We used matches. We didn't create a regular expression and then use it for filtering or something else. We just used it to pull out matches. And this can be really useful for a lot of different areas. So hopefully you're following along. Hopefully you kind of understand it. You can play around, maybe kind of use this to-hash set and see how that works. But thanks for watching. And as always, I am Tim Corey.